Ashe, Ashe, Mojo Ogo Ogo Orisha, Ashe, Mojo Ogo Itatun, Ashe, Mojo Ogo Iku, Ashe, Nila Nalisi Olodamare Ibayi Orun, Ashe, Nikamasi Ogobo, Ashe, Babalasa Ogobo Ilasa, Ashe, Nikamasi, Ashe. Okay. Ain, Ashe, Ain Sa'o, Ashe Keba, Ashe Shakma, Ashe Bana, Ashe Kep, Chef, Ashe Gebra, Ashe Tipperit, Ashe Nod, Ashe Yashad, Ashe Naksad, Ashe Had, Ashe Yased, Ashe Da, Ashe Malkuth, Ashe Aether, Ashe Celios, Ashe Magnameta, Ashe Jupiter, Ashe Mars, Ashe Helios, Ashe Venus, Ashe Mercury, Ashe Diana, Ashe Ceres, Ashe Aether, Ashe Uraeus, Ashe Rhea, Ashe Zeus, Ashe Ares, Ashe Apollo, Ashe Aphrodite, Ashe Hermes, Ashe Artemis, Ashe Demeter, Ashe Osea, Ashe Tahuti, Ashe Mayat, Ashe Ptah, Ashe Sut, Ashe Sutnesi, Ashe Ra, Ashe Amen-Ra, Ashe Amen-Rinthensa, Ashe Het-Heru, Ashe Anpu, Ashe Aset, Ashe Nebhert, Ashe Yema, Ashe Odin, Ashe Fragda, Ashe Frigga, Ashe Balda, Ashe Laki, Ashe. Get some water. I gotta, and also, hold on, while I'm getting at it, yeah, I gotta another characteristics of the Kamite gods I'm gonna do today also too. I say Laki, I say Thor, I say Fire, I say Freya, I say Sif, I say Nerthris, I say Brahmin, I say Vishnu, I say Bravini, I say Ramachandra, I say Shiva, I say Shakti, I say Sita, I say Hanuman, I say Lakshmi, I say Jinsea, I say Dambawalawedo, I say Papagade, I say Loa, I say Marasha, I say Bridget, I say Bopman, I say Adam Gwardi, I say Ogu Farelli, I say Ogu Shango, I say Azurli, I say Legba, I say Edawedo, I say Zaka, I say Alafi, I say Oshosi, I say Olakun, I say Ife, I say Abatala, I say Odudawa, I say Orunla, I say Ogun, I say Shango, I say Oshun, I say Legba, I say Jiminja, I say Orisha Oku, I say, still that while I'm doing this, because I got to do the, I have another list of some real Kamite deities I'm going to do. Ra, I say Ka, I say Ba, I say Ad, I say Ku, I say Sahu, I say Cat, I say Cabinet, I say Cat, I say Sechem, I say Shekinah, I say Osea, I say Sut, I say Amma, I say Neama, I say Ba, I say Na, I say Yugaru, I say Nomo, I say Yugaru, I say Kuntu, I say Digitalia stages, I say, yeah. Where's another one up under there? Yeah, okay, yeah, give me that right now. I say Ikingu, I say Imana, I say Buzima, I say Muzima, I say Kamara, I say Kingu, I say Muzimu, I say Marambu, I say Rarim, Kakti, I say Muzimu, I say Bo, I say Da, I say Seldo, I say Zodo, I say Fa, I say Yi, I say Mawa and Lisa, I say Si, I say Mawa, I say Legba, I say Akanapan, I say Akra, I say Netro, I say Yap Magya, I say Sansaban, I say Malampo, I say Sansamam, I say Oku, I say Kimi, I say Sansamam, I say Nakumpa, I say Umbelinga, I say Nkulakulu, I say Haftar, I say Cthulhu, I say Nilahotep, I say Azathoth, I say Shubnigara, I say Dagon, I say Dogon, I say Great Old Ones, I say Deep Ones, I say Great Ones, I say Sutnesi, I say Sutnubit, I say Pan, I say Inanna, I say Ishtar, I say Marduk, I say Tiamat, I say Nibiru, I say Kuntu, I say Hu, I say Raherukahudi, I say Harpakrat, I say Harmaku, I say Harmakis, I say, okay, just see. Newt, I say Apit, I say Tyert, I say Raziel, I say Kaziel, I say Haniel, I say Bubiel, I say Lakmiel, I say Iniel, I say Elijah, I say John, I say Quetzalcoatl, I say Yeshua, I say Atan, I say Medera Atan, I say Meskinit, I say Tetragrammaton, I say After I say Abra, I say Bridget, I say Mithra, I say, okay, Tammuz, I say Doozy, I say Amenrenthesar, I say Amthet, I say Akar, I say Amenet, I say Amen, I say Andajeti, I say Antaeus, I say Anpu, I say Anukit, I say Apis, I say. Okay. Astarte, Ashe Atan, Ashe Atum, Ashe Bastet, Ashe Beth, Ashe Butches, Ashe Dadoon, Ashe Dawamutep, Ashe Ejo, Ashe Gab, Ashe. You might want to give me another one of them. I will keep it rolling. Ha, Ashe Happy, Ashe Harkidi, Ashe Harindados, Ashe Hamarcus, Ashe Hermerti, Ashe Horus, Ashe Heru, Ashe Heru Ashe. Hopocrat, Ashe Heart Shapes, Ashe Haristodis, Ashe Heru, Ashe Hetmahet, Ashe Heket, Ashe Hemmitt, Ashe Herus, Ashe Heru's children, Ashe Hu, Ashe A, Ashe Imhotepamutis, Ashe Aset, Ashe Ashe Kadash, Ashe Kabashnukep, Ashe Kimutep, Ashe Kentucky, Ashe Kenti Amentu, Ashe Kenti Ertu, Ashe Capri, Ashe Kanum, Ashe Combs, Ashe Mayat, Ashe Meskinit, Ashe Men, Ashe Menovis, Ashe Moth, Ashe Mutt, Ashe Mentu, Ashe Nanette, Ashe Muntu, Ashe Kunsu, Ashe Nepatim, Ashe Nuth, Ashe Negbet, Ashe Neptert, Ashe Nefri, Ashe Newt, Ashe Honoris, Ashe Osir, Ashe Petbi, Ashe Patah, Ashe Re, Ashe Reshef, Ashe. A few more. Serapis, Ashe Satis, Ashe Sekhmet, Ashe Salket, Ashe Sashet, Ashe Suf, Ashe Set, Ashe Shade, Ashe Shed, Ashe Shu, Ashe Saya, Ashe Sobek, Ashe Socceris, Ashe Sabdu, Ashe Sartis, Ashe Tatanin, Ashe Tamutis, Ashe Thos, Ashe Thoraris, Ashe Onet, Ashe Upwarit, Ashe. I guess that would do it for that and all. Thunderdog, Ashe Thunderbird, Ashe White Buffalo, Ashe. To all gods known and unknown, Ashe, the Hemmitt family, Ashe, the Shaw family, Ashe, the Davis family. So when I count to 3, 1, 2, 3, start calling out your family members. 1, 2, 3. Ashe, 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 Ashe. To all gods known and unknown. Ashe, to all ancestors known and unknown. Ashe, all right. Yeah, so if you get some energy, we might well pull that out, I guess. I guess so it won't spill. Okay. All right. Now it's interesting because what it is what we have learned. Well, I just put this on the paper. The second day in Philly at Sister Delilah's. Yesterday we had a great one at Sister Miriam's. And what's the name of your place again? Peace of Heaven. And so this is phase 2. And it's funny because it's all, a lot of powerful sisters up here in Philly, which is mentioned in Beginner's Guide to Revelation, Robin Robertson's book, Beginner's Guide to Revelation, which is, I think it's a very good book for the simple fact it just doesn't deal with the Christian mythos, but it deals with Dogon. It deals with Dogon. It deals with the Kamite or the Egyptian. It also deals with Carl Pribram's holographic universe, which is quantum physics. In metaphysics, they call it chaos physics, which is called the making of a new science. Or, as we discussed yesterday, it's all about melanin magic, but they got the new words as of the 1986 conference called creative physics. In that book, The Sign of the Serpent, that we'll access again, creative physics, which is all about melanin physics, or chaos physics, what they call. And basically, these are new words that explain alchemy. Now, like we always say, and I pay homage because I was in Dr. Ben's little mystery system and all, and I came out of the Afrocentric movement, and, came out of the Farrakhan thing, and, that whole thing that was going on at that particular time in the early 90s. But unfortunately, what happened is like when I went to see John Henry Clark in '94, I used to meet with him in the hotel room when he would come down to Atlanta, he and Dr. Ben. And I went to go see him in '94. They opened up this Clark House, which was this house that they dedicated this brownstone to John Henry Clark. And they had 2 younger brothers up in there giving some new science. One brother was dealing with the whole New World Order thing, and I was dealing with basically metaphysical stuff. And the whole time there was a group of people that was hunching Dr. Ben with John Henry Clark, and John Henry Clark saying, Is this stuff true? And John Hemmitt was looking at them and said, I don't know. Why the hell you ask him? He the expert at that. So the key is, what it was is, for some reason, that it was a group of people, that little first world crew, that just figured that when they got the Afrocentric part, they got all the end-all and be-all there was of knowledge. Unfortunately, what they didn't realize is and I mentioned this yesterday, how is it that every voice we had with just basic civil rights and just basic anything in the 1960s, you died. They killed your ass. Then all of a sudden we could come out in the 1990s and late 80s and just talk stuff and nobody dies. And that is because we understand that even the stuff that we got from ASCAC was only the stuff that the white boy allowed us to even go in and research and say we uncovered our shit. You understand where I'm coming from? So we're talking about being victims of library colonization. So Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark did great work. Nobody can deny that. But for some reason, we started calling them our illustrious scholars. First of all, you don't never let nobody call you no scholar or no kind of shit like that, because knowledge is what? Infinite. You see what I'm saying? And Dr. Ben had a lot of problems with that and all, because he would start organizations and then he would just leave. Next thing you know, they'd be left with an organization without a leader. He was good for that, which was good because Dr. Ben was trying to tell them, hey, fuck it, we all students. And we supposed to be looking at this thing as students. Otherwise, go join a leader group. We got plenty of leaders group, you know what I'm saying, where a person says something and all and say that you shouldn't be reading other stuff. Now, it's good. It's funny because that's what you call it is doing now. Raul Nefer. Big problem with that down in Atlanta. Telling the people they shouldn't read certain books. You know what I'm saying? Let me draw the conclusion. You know, so these are problems, this age-old problems that we have is called the crisis of the Negro intellectual. I'm not talking about Harold Cruz, but I'm saying there is a crisis of the Negro intellectual, but there's a crisis in intellectualism also. The same crisis in intellectualism is the same thing that Crawley, the Theosophical Society, G.R.S. Mead, and a group of white people at the turn of the century was battling the same way. Whereas somebody's saying, this is the way shit's supposed to be presented. And as soon as you put a label on anything, you already limit the amount of energy or limit the capacity of how much you can rise by putting a limit on some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is the way something is. And one thing about it, like I had some good friends. I had a friend named Wise. Now, Wise was in the Nation of Islam. At that particular time, I started uncovering stuff in the Egyptian text that Elijah Muhammad had said, and I'm running up on this shit, and I'm saying, hell, this stuff is the same stuff that Elijah Muhammad was saying. But I told Wise, I said, Wise, you got a problem like this. I said, for some reason, and this is what it is with the ego, but Wise was 19 or 20, so that's that young puffed up shit, you know. Wise wanted to take what, you know, Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Noble Drew Ali said to the exact science, whereas this is the absolute. And there was a brother that was a 5% Muslim, and he was also in the Afrocentric movement. We was all going and accessing Dr. Ben and all. We was reading Civilization of Barbarism at that time, Diop and all. And the brother kept telling him, he was a 5%er, you know, but they're a little more free, you know. It's basically, they're out in the street, but they call themselves the God and all this, but they're a little more free in the thinking. And he kept telling Wise, there are no absolutes in nothing. There is no absolute in nothing. And I'm looking at that in quantum physics now. And if you understand melanin and understand spirits, there are no absolutes, because when you put something absolute, you put it in a container. And when you put anything in a damn container, that means it cannot grow any further. And that's what fundamentalism and that's what sectarian religions did in the last 2,000 years. There are no absolutes. So there's no such thing as saying, this is a certain way that we go about scholarship. That's bullshit. That's what the European taught us. You see what I'm saying? Meanwhile, he's accessing all our shit. You even turn on the Discovery Channel. He's doing unorthodox ways to do stuff. Penis implants and shit. But yet there's an orthodox way we're supposed to do stuff. You know what I'm saying at all? You know? All kinds of stuff. Giving motherfuckers monkey hearts and shit. But yet, it's the orthodox way we do things. You understand what I'm saying? And even Crawley, when he died, Crawley, and even in his book, the Book of Thoth, he said, I find this problem with this British 19th century mentality that spilled over into the 20th century up until the damn 60s, is that he said, I go around the world and I find an innocence in the indigenous people. And what the European man has to do is he got to get put on a certain amount of innocence. He must receive the innocence if he's going to save himself. So for the last 130 years, or basically let's say good 20, 30, 40 years, or whatever. Well, we could even go back to doggone W.E.B. Du Bois and that whole crew. We have taken on this same British mentality on the way we're going to look at some shit. You understand what I'm saying? We're going to look at something that's got to fit these three basic modes. And we don't understand that even the scholars, Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark, and even Asa Hilliard and Charles Sphinx, I've talked to them personally, and they didn't believe some of the things that they was conveying, but they had a damn head of the department over there, so they couldn't say certain things outside of that because those people got jobs. So the difference between some stuff, whether you can go and say what the hell you want, is based on whether you got a job or not. You know what I'm saying? So Van Sertima can't say a certain amount of things at Rutgers. You see what I'm saying? Charles Finch can't say a certain amount of things at the Morehouse School of Medicine, although he does believe greater things than what he even published. You understand what I'm saying? But that's based on that, so we follow the illustrious, what we call intellectuals and all, but privately. You know spiritual things all the time, and there's no certain way that we deal with things a certain way. It's just that those people stuck to a model to save their ass. You understand what I'm saying? They saw what the hell happened to Leonard Jeffries. And hell, he wasn't doing it. It's made an example out of that nigga's behind. So this is the criteria. Take, for instance, I got a friend that I met about 3 weeks ago. About a month ago, I met this brother, and this brother was searching. And the brother loves the information. But somewhere in the information that he's receiving, in this metaphysical or spiritual realm, he's always stopping and he always had problems processing the information. And I said, the reason why you have problem processing the information is because you have not been taught to process. I said, first of all, you went to college, didn't you? Yes. I said, first of all, before you even let this information sink into your brain, your ego tells you that you got to rebut the shit. And you thinking of your rebuttal before you even let the shit process. I said, if the stuff is false knowledge, it's not going to peter out anyway. You understand what I'm saying? It ain't going to hold no water no way. So hell, just give it a fucking week. Give it a chance to process. Say, well, I'm going to ponder on this for about a week. You understand what I'm saying? I'm going to ponder on this for a week because I understand there is no such thing as absolutes. So therefore, what you're saying is something that I might be able to come around to with some reasoning. You see, but the way the mentality is based on the way we are trained is he was not giving himself time to process the data. You see? And why is that? Because he had something preconceived inside of him in the first damn place. You see where I'm coming from? So that's why you go back and look at Empire Strikes Back, the second movie. In the movie, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and like I said, oh, that's a damn movie, but I just showed you called the new advanced stuff, and I explained this the last time I was here. The new advanced stuff is what? Quantum psychology. And in there you have the holographic universe by Michael Talbot. And in the front of the book, which is in the physics section at Barnes & Noble, he starts off explaining his whole thesis based on what? Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Star Wars shit. You see what I'm saying? Because even Joseph Campbell, when he wanted to explain mythology, he went to George Lucas for him, because these Jews, that's where they go and get their shit from mythology. You see what I'm saying? So now, in the second version, or the second part of Empire Strikes Back, Obi-Wan Kenobi is the person that's dead. You got little Yoda is supposed to be teaching Luke Skywalker. But Yoda is having a conversation with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Luke Skywalker can't see him because Luke Skywalker hadn't gotten to that type of knowledge where he can see the people who have offended. And they're having a conversation on the fate of Luke Skywalker and whether he can be trained or not, or whether he can learn or not. And Yoda say, I don't know, he's too old. And what did he mean by that? He's saying because he's too old, and Obi-Wan Kenobi said, no, trust me. He's got the right stuff. He can learn this stuff. And what Yoda was trying to say was, at a certain age, we get certain preconceived notion on what the fucking world is. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody can tell us shit. And then when we go and get an education or get some fool to validate our ignorance, nobody really can't tell you nothing. You know what I'm saying? Nobody really can't tell you anything. So what I'm saying is there are no absolutes. If you get the introduction to chaos magic, and chaos physics, all of them tell you there are no absolutes. There are no absolutes. Which means is you got to give your mind to function just like nature. Nature is a series of contradictions. Just like them bushes out there, you ain't going to have one leaf that's identical. But it doesn't have to be. You see what I'm saying? We don't deal with the linear perspective of a right brain, of this left brain type of mentality that things have to fit in a fucking box. Because you can't box no motherfucking water, if you really know what I'm talking about. Or you can't box no fucking energy. You see what I'm saying? You get an explosion. So what it is what we have a concept is we got to reteach ourselves on how to learn. You see what I'm saying? Because the beast done came in and told us there's a certain way that things need to line up. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Why do they have to line up that way? Do they really have to line up that way for you to believe it, or do they have to line up that way for the simple fact that you want to go and show the damn white boy this model and say, nah, I done put it in the model and it still lines up that way? I mean, what are we in this thing for in the first place? Are we in this stuff to get results? Or are we in this stuff to just try to just basically intellectualize so we can feel good about ourselves? You know. So basically, we have to teach ourselves how to actually speak, train ourselves actually how to learn. So let's get into some certain things. There's a movie out, because this is what the white boy is doing now. He's doing this now. There's a movie out called Spirit Lost, or Spirit's Lost. It was put out by what's the guy that played on Frank's Place? Tim Reed. And Tim Reed saying, well, we don't have now the black man don't have no problem producing a movie. The white man didn't put the jump in, now saying, hell, we're not just going to distribute the stuff. So a lot of the movies have to go straight to video. So the movie Spirit Lost is a movie that it's a movie about this particular sister that didn't know she was dead, and she died in like slavery. But when the other people moved into her house and stuff, she started having an affair with this particular man in real life. And anyway, it took some sisters that was in the Yoruba to get her out of there, you know. And so it's a very good movie, and I think the movie was, they didn't want to show a spiritual side of black people other than jumping around in a goddamn church. So the preacher's wife could get released, you know what I'm saying. But the Spirit Lost couldn't. And it went straight to video. But I know it's on video now. So, yeah, you got it from Bert, didn't you? Yeah, I got a copy from her too. Very good video. Now it's interesting because all over the country, in '95, one of the biggest metaphysical bookstores in America closed down, Samuel Weiser in New York. In Atlanta, you had both Oxford Bookstore, which is this big, huge bookstore. They had 2 or 3 of them. It closed down 2 weeks ago. As well as Avalon, this big metaphysical bookstore. And all across the country, a lot of these are being closed down, but also Barnes & Noble is moving in and closing these things down, because the government say, well, what we'll do is to close down these particular smaller bookstores, which we don't have a control over what kind of knowledge these people will order. Barnes & Nobles will move into the town and will say, well, we can order the books free of charge, and we can charge you less or whatever, because we can get this stuff on a big bulk or whatever, because we are a chain store. And so what they do is they go in and before you know it, all these other stores cannot deal with the actual competition of Barnes & Nobles. And also Barnes & Noble got a nice coffee shop and nice hardwood chairs and desks and stuff and all. And so the atmosphere, and so they get the bulk of the people coming. And so Borders and Barnes & Nobles are the ones that's moving in, and they're closing down these other bookstores. And that's another way of monitoring what's actually getting out, especially the metaphysical stuff. You see what I'm saying? So I was saying, when it came to Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark and all of those type of things, we got some people that got stuck in a rut. The part was those people came up and they were supposed to give us an introduction into greater mysteries. Because the whole time they kept talking about the mystery system, the mystery system, the mystery system. But nobody couldn't tell you what the fuck the mystery system was. So they just give you one fragment of the mystery system in Stolen Legacy, which is a beautiful book if you've never heard anything metaphysical before. It's a great book. But as you know, once you get into the metaphysical, you can see that it's quite arcane. You know what I'm saying? But other than Stolen Legacy, most people didn't realize that the mysteries was even greater than that. You see what I'm saying? And then some people thought that Diop was actually dealing with the mysteries. You see what I'm saying? But that was only an introduction. Now, I propose that everybody needs an Afrocentric base when you deal with the metaphysical thing, because we understand that the white people, that although they ever give you all this stuff, they're not going to exactly say it's black. You see what I'm saying? They're not going to exactly say it's black. But then again, when reading those particular books, I don't supposed to have the inferiority complex that this man has got to document, you understand, my political structure of whether shit is black or not. You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to be a little more secure than that. You know what I'm saying? And also, what I was saying, there was a brother named from Africa named Shudi. And the brother, I kept telling Shudi, I say, Shudi said, well, as far as I'm concerned, let me see if Shudi said, as far as I'm concerned, there should be no room for a white scholarship, period. I said, well, hell, if you look on the back of John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben books, they got a whole lot of white books there. As a matter, you know, I'm saying, so it's not even a matter of that. I say, first of all, you take knowledge wherever you can get it. It's just a matter is that the cracker don't have to tell me this shit is black. I suppose I already know that. You see what I'm saying? I suppose I already know that. But what I'm trying to say is that Dr. Ben and all of them set the stage. But it didn't mean that after you got that to start wearing some bullshit kente cloth that you supposed to say, well, that's it. You know what I'm saying? Now that's more of a clown shit now, if you know this and stuff. Motherfuckers are laughing at that shit now, you know. How much more can we talk about we were the pharaohs? Now we got to get into the mystery. Well, what was the mystery? So now we deal with the lost and pages of the mystery. You understand what I'm saying? But it doesn't necessarily fit into what is called what the five senses can perceive. That's what the mystery is. And plus, if it did make sense, ain't no sense in your motherfucking ass trying to learn that. You see what I'm saying? If you can agree with every damn thing, and it's got to fit your own frame of references, that's not knowledge. Knowledge is supposed to be strange. You understand what I'm saying? It's no different than a mug. If you'd have told a person, a cracker in 15th century England about the light bulb, he would say, you crazy. But that doesn't mean it's under end all and be all, because you know what I'm saying? Because we're talking about knowledge here, and it doesn't necessarily have to fit our view of things, you know. So, which also deals with Elijah. Before he left, he gave a prophecy. He said that there would be pamphlets that will fall from the sky. And when these pamphlets stop falling, it's over. Which means that a lot of these bookstores and a lot of access to all this particular information is now closing down. It's closing down. Also because the internet is running a lot of stuff out of business now. Somebody can go in and download information for free. So therefore, anybody going to pay no $14 for no book. Or $20 or $30 for no book. Which is dangerous, especially in a non-intellectual society like America. America is a Jethro Bodine to the fucking world. So therefore, we can't even go with a doggone American concept of, well, we should think shit is right and wrong, because hell, this is the most non-intellectual society in the world. Because you got TV. You see what I'm saying? So that's very key. Now, it's interesting because the guy Eddie Griffin came out with this HBO special. Now, I do happen to know that they got to the brother, because the brother is also dealing with the thing on how Africa is all fucked up. You see what I'm saying? Now, I don't care whether it is or not. You will never find no Jew or nobody get on TV and talk about their race and don't suffer the consequences. You see what I'm saying? But I'm saying the reason why they even put him on is because he can say something fucked up. You see, and that's one thing key that's actually going on. You got to realize that just about anything that's going to happen to us, they're going to use the entertainment to actually manifest whatever this beast wants to do. You see, they're going to use the entertainment factor to manifest in anything too. It's interesting about the thunderstorm in the place, Gerald, Texas. Number one, like I told you yesterday, that Gerald started with the J-E-R-R-E-L. And Kabbalistically, when I looked it up in the Kabbalistic dictionary, it says that Yarrow is the second angel, which is it's a Y-A-R-R-E-L, Yarrow, which is the same as Yarrow, you see, or Y-E-A-R-E-L. One is the second angel, one is the 22nd angel, and it's Y-E-I-L-E-E-L, which is the 58th angel. Basically, what the Kabbalistic breakdown was an element or elemental breakdown of the forces of the universe. And when these particular elements came together, it caused destruction. Because you saw this thing was super huge, super huge. Okay, it happened on May 27th, 1997. So if you understand May is the 5th month and 27, both of those, 27 in the Kabbalistic breakdown is Heru, and May, which is 5 in the Kabbalistic breakdown, is also Horus. So you have the double Horus again of both horizons. So we're talking about not only when we're talking about mythology, we're talking about certain elements, and when they come together, they wreak havoc. So when they was dealing with the Kabbalistic breakdown of these particular elements, and these numbers lined up, it caused a force based on the two forces of nature. It caused the force that did that in all. And basically, because this stuff has an intelligence of its own, it killed all them white people. Because it never hits the ghetto. Very key that you understand that. Very key that you understand that. Which is, like I said, that women at this particular time need to start using their menstrual cycle to control those particular elements at this particular time. You see. To control those particular elements at that particular time. Now, it's interesting because the cartoon X-Files, they have a black woman. Even though she has blonde hair, she's black. She's from Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa. Her name is Storm. That's in, not the X-Files, but the X-Men. The X-Men. The cartoon. I know it used to come on every day, but it does come on Saturday morning. But one of the figures is Storm from Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa. And she's basically Oya. And she controls basically the elements. But they call her Storm, which is actually Oya. You ever get the book of Oya? They still sell that book? The book of Oya. O-Y-A. The book of Oya. Anyway, but in that book it shows how these certain elements come together and these certain winds and all, which is actually a spiritual science. A spiritual science and all. So it's very key that you get that. And it's also showing you the different elements in these particular science in the movie Fifth Element, which the fifth elements, the 5 elements was earth, water, air, and fire. And the fifth element was supposed to be this girl, although they made her white. She was supposed to be the perfecting agent, or where all these particular elements come together and perform melanin. And the fifth element is the human body. In this case, it was the black body. But they even showed, they said, well, you know, take the white girl out and try to understand the science behind it and all, because they also got it on paperback book. But you're supposed to, the fifth element, they said when they checked her DNA strands, that the average DNA strand was 2 double helical structures, but she had like over 100. Well, what were they talking about? Over 100 DNA strands. Over 100 DNA strands is nothing but melanin, because the melanin has every composite in the universe in it. So if it has every sign, every type of element in the universe in melanin, then you're talking about over 100 DNA strands, over 1,000. You see what I'm saying? Over 1,000. That's all dealing with the art of alchemy that we'll get into also this particular night. Also, the fifth element was also a form of Hitler's secret government, which we're going to get into also to show you how these things line up throughout history, which there's an occult history of the earth, which Adolf Hitler was a part of that occult history. A part of that occult history. Plus, white people hate him to death. And I'll explain why, too. He's to be admired, but you take me up on this. This is not like the Nazi skinhead people talking. This is talking about some other high science, because when I give you the dialectical opposite of what he's battling and shit, I say, go to hell right on, Hitler. You my boy. That's right. That's right. Because he fucked Europe up. But we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that also, too. In the 1980s, there was top 10 black women in the porn industry, maximum. That's including some people that can borderline, we can call them black. 10 black women in the porn industry. In the 1990s, there's literally hundreds. Hundreds and hundreds. Why is that? Why is it that the porn would be so taboo, even up until the late 80s, that you wouldn't have but 10 women in the whole porn industry? But then all of a sudden, in the 1990s, you would have a shift, almost a damn near 100% shift of literally hundreds of being non-existent in the doggone 80s. That is because of what? Cloning. That is because of cloning. And this is another example when we talk about the cloning that's being done, carried out probably by Temple here in here. What's the medical college here? Well, that would be your cloning. Yeah, one of those would be your cloning facilities, as well as Emory is the one that's got it hands down, which is being financed by Coca-Cola in Atlanta, because the guy Robert W. Woodruff, his family was the legacy shareholders to Coca-Cola, left most of his money, a lot of his money, and the research was funneled into Emory University. And so they're like the #1 cloning center, with the cloning center being on Holcomb Bridge Road, as well as even in 1991 opened up a museum specializing in Egyptian artifacts, Akamite artifacts, and which supposedly within the next year or so will be one of the biggest Egyptology schools in the world. That's what they've been building for the last 6 or 7 years. But all of this particular stuff has also to do with the cloning factor, which I'll get into later on, because I got some other information also we'll get into also too. But in the 1960s, what we have now is a fundamental breakdown that, now looking back, of what is called the government separation of the races or the class groups from the 1960s, which means is that they isolated the so-called upward mobile from the underclass to the point, and especially in the 1970s, that it was such a great and excellent program for them that was so successful until now it's like you being in 2 different dimensions. Whereas some of the most hideous places in the city, and I can speak for Atlanta, places like McDaniel Glen, Carver Homes, McDaniel Glen, Perry Homes, which are these great projects which has the most poverty-stricken underclass. It's almost like another dimension for not just for college people, but for the average citizen that is upward mobile. And when I say upward mobile, I'm just talking about, goddamn it, making about $200 a week, especially down south. With top rent is $500, But what I'm saying is it created a whole nother dimension, whereas some people could be living in the same city and it will be almost like you living in Australia from them. So therefore, they can kill 12 million since 1990, and we wouldn't even know, because of the dimension that they created in this separation of classes among the haves and the have-nots. Now, when your boy E. Franklin Fraser, black bourgeoisie, recognized that and said it would be a war. But we're talking about a whole dimension. We're talking about a dimension on even language. A whole dimension on how you might pass by these people every day on the work, but can be in a whole dimension. So we're saying within a room setting, a public room, a mall or something, you can have different dimensions of people in different worlds and multi-dimensional worlds in one mall. You'd have the black upward mobile to be in a different another dimension from the actual black underclass, so-called, but the upward mobile might be conscious. But even he would be in a whole other dimension from the white upward mobile. So this is this particular, what we call, not, we would call genetic reservation, or what we would call conscious reserve, where you could be in a reservation in your consciousness. And therefore, the government can control the way you think just by this great separation plan that he did and was successful in the starting in the 1960s, but basically broke this thing apart in the 1970s, which the Kerner report said if you don't fix this shit by 1980, it'll be all over. And this is 1990, so can you imagine the actual onslaught of hell that we actually live in at this particular time? We're just going through the hard copies. In the 1970s, the white boys decided that they were also going to celebrate the Moors. For some reason, it had something to do with Noble Drew Ali, because Noble Drew Ali was supposed to have rose up on an Indian reservation in North Carolina. Supposedly, I think that was his home. To celebrate that the North Carolina cigarette companies and Virginia, all that's the same people, put out the cigarette called a Moor. They just put the M-O-R-E, but it was a black cigarette, which celebrated the Moors in the 1970s and all. We're just jumping around a whole lot of ideas. Number one, like I said yesterday, they had an HBO special and it was talking about people losing brain cells. And the remedy to that, of people losing brain cells in their later years, was to give them random exercises that were not routine. To let them exercise their minds, take them on certain field trips, do everything that the average person 60 and 70 would not do. You see what I'm saying? And they made smarter people. People, as a matter of fact, these people started reversing the actual consciousness to the point where as they was going back to teenage years with a 70, 80-year-old body, which even Deepak Chopra talks about that. You see what I'm saying? And that's not even talking about regenerating your cells. Well, I'm quite sure white people without melanin, they couldn't do that, but can you imagine what could happen if you could actually have the ether skin, the melanin skin, to regenerate that also? But the conclusion is that ignorance is a disease. And I'm not talking about a psychological disease, whereas a figure of speech, because we deal so much in figure of speech. So when we say ignorance is a disease, you go, amen. No, I'm saying an actual disease. Whereas if you catch it, you have to work just that hard, or it might be damn fatal. In most cases, it's fatal, especially if you was never taught how to think from a child. Whereas I know people that can't even perceive nothing because there's a time delay in the thought process. You see what I'm saying? It's a time delay because there's not enough muscle in between. And when I'm saying muscle, sometimes that can be something metaphysical. It could be blockages. There's not enough muscle, and there's a blockage in between receiving something and processing it to the least common denominator. You see what I'm saying? And so basically we all have those particular blockages. But then again, on the other hand, I don't think that even registers with the people here and all, because the simple fact that you fought through some of that just to have a hunger for even knowledge. But we're talking about an actual disease like fucking cancer. Then you can understand where you say, I can't understand. We explained this to you. Why couldn't you get it? You sat there in the lecture just like everybody else. You was amazed and stuff to the point where as certain things you heard get registered might be the range of somebody's voice. But still, ignorance is an actual disease at this particular time. And we know that that's prevalent in the black community. Some type of blockage based on oppression. Based on oppression. It is a disease. Now, this is the interesting thing. The brother Juju told me back in 95, he said that white people, and I made the synopsis with some civil rights motherfuckers, because you know, down in Atlanta, you got a lot of them. That's the civil rights seat. So between the 5 schools, Morehouse, Clark, and all that, you're going to have the black radical element, but you also going to have a civil rights handkerchief head element. So their whole thing is they love racism, but they're thinking that racism is some political type of tool or something that you can put on and put off. So the white man is going to lie like George Wallace. I've changed, and every goddamn nigga down there vote the motherfucker in. You know. And I was saying, first of all, you are dealing with racism as an abstract and an objective type point where you're not understanding of a person's nature based on their energy. Racism is only the expression which you cannot express and still have a certain nature of hate or evil. There's a difference between somebody's expression and somebody's nature. So a person can change their expression and fool all the niggas in the world. Now, the brother Juju, by being this advanced psychic that he is, mysterious brother, said, white people, remember I told you, said white people can't take black people's energy. It's a certain energy you give off, and they reject that energy. Remember I said that? But I also made synopsis and made summaries. In previous lectures, I said that the white man loves older people. They like older black men and older black women. It's just that somebody in the prime of their energy they can't take. Why is this? It bears witness because in the HBO report about people losing brain cells and people losing energy, there's a certain amount of energy that black people have, and by routine life, everyday life of routine, that energy starts to evaporate. Because you're not getting the essentials to keep that energy going. It's either like a corporate structure. You either go up or you get the hell out. Same thing with the energy. The energy evaporates for the simple fact that we put through this routine life, and not just that, a routine way of knowledge, a routine way of thinking. Thinking in the so-called absolute terms, which is a blockage, because there's no absolute. So what happens is this energy dissipates after so many years, because it's like this energy, you either use it or lose it. It's just like a muscle. So when this energy starts to dissipate and starts to evaporate to the point where as you become more docile, the white man then can take your energy. It's metaphysical. So older people, they like the old black man. They like the older black woman. You see, but they can take the energy. So it's also a metaphysical thing that the cracker was up from Philadelphia was talking about, get an old black man from South Carolina. You remember he was talking about as far as being on the jury and all this type of stuff. They can take the older black person because the older black person has lost a certain amount of energy. Yet they can't take a younger black person in the prime of their life. Not unless that person is a psychopath, which he shut down most of his energy through oppression, and they can take that type of thing. You see. But that's very key to this. That's very key. Because when HBO gave the actual report about older people burning brain cells, it makes a lot of sense. Even if we even lose a fragment of that energy later on, then we can understand why white people would refer older black people other than a brother in his 20s or a sister in his 20s or 30s. You know what I'm saying? In this case, when it conscious people way into your 60s or whatever the deal is, based on you still use your brain and don't dissipate. And for the mere fact that we're here today, we know that that's not us. You see what I'm saying? I want to deal with this at this particular time because this was a very key issue. First of all, we know that Jesse Jackson, for whatever, has done far more worse than good, other than a good feeling and sitting up there talking in front of crackers. We were just amazed that a black man in the 1984 could even talk amongst the cracker with politics, because that's how inferior we were. But anyway, and don't invade no issues. Oh, Jesse don't invade no issues. That kind of shit. But otherwise, Jesse Jackson, we understand, is one of the top government agents. Now, we understand that he didn't coin the phrase African American. But Jesse Jackson is the one that got it to the point where he brought it to the world stage in 1988, where people started saying it, and white people say, okay, this is what we're going to call you from now on. And the reason why is, number one, they had to get away from black, because that denotes a vast race of people. It's not just African American, whatever the hell that is. Two damn names that don't really fit nothing. You ain't shit, an African. You a Roman. What that? You a Roman. What was, hell, wasn't America? Vespucci, wasn't he Italian too? You a double fucking Roman. White Roman at that. Ain't that a bitch? Pizza. But my point is, shit. Well, I mean, what did he do to denote that? I mean, what great contribution did he do to denote that? That's the saying, so that don't necessarily, you know what I'm saying. But my point is, why did they get to this particular African American thing? Number one, it was the first to stop calling you black. Number two, it was to go against the divine name nigger. Now, we know words of power, right? And we know words of power, and we spoke about this yesterday. Not only words of power, we know certain things kill white people and make them sick. Now, why was it, spiritually, after being called a nigger by the white man, we took on that name, and actually it even sounds good as a great accent when we call ourselves that shit. Because it's metaphysical. Because nigger is in hundreds of ancient words. You know, Nicaragua, Niger. There's so many names that the word nigger, but the metaphysical name for nigger is melanin, Saul nigger. In your, that's me? Oh, thanks. The Saul nigger, which is documented in the, you give me this. It's documented in your book, you ever get that book, Solomon and Sheba by Cole Tools? She wrote the book Lilith. What's her name? Barbara Black Cole Tools. She wrote a little green book called Solomon and Sheba. And it's talking about the metaphysical implication of Solomon and Sheba, because we now know that the Hebrew had a mythology at first. And Solomon and Sheba was, Solomon was Osiris or Amun-Ra, and Sheba was Aset, before they turned it into a historical people later on. But Solomon and Sheba, as a matter of fact, I gave you a paper. Remember I gave you some papers on Alvin Boyd Kuhn? And there was I think I gave you a paper called Sublime Myth Makes Grotesque History. And it talks about how the people turn mythology and turn that shit into historicalized, and they fucking up everybody, especially this historical Jesus bullshit. But anyway, in that book, Solomon and Sheba, in that Barbara Black Cole Tools book, she explained of the Saul nigger, which means the black sun, which he gets it from alchemy, which is coming out of the Library of Alexandria. When they robbed the Library of Alexandria, they changed it from the knowledge of Tahuti to what? Hermeticism. You see, just the Greek word for Tahuti, Hermes. In there, the word Saul, which means both Greek and Hebrew for sun, and nigger means black. It means the black sun, which means melanin. The Saul nigger. So, by us calling ourselves niggers, it was more authentic than African American and even black, because black is such a vague, a broad term. But nigger means pure melanin. You see what I'm saying? Which means pure melanin. Also in the woman's book, if you can get it, Androgyny, June Singer. She has the most scholarship written on it, Saul nigger, in the book Androgyny by June Singer. She's this Jung historian. Anyway, she wrote some real good books. One book is called Seeing Through the Invisible World, dealing with the holographic universe also too. But Androgyny by June Singer. If you can ever get your hands on that book, she has a couple of chapters on the Saul nigger and basically dealing with the alchemical part of the blackening stage, which we're going to get into also today too. We're going to get in that particular part too. Now, so it was now all of a sudden, You can't even say the word nigger on TV. It's called the N-word. Which will still fuck them up, because even doing that is a word of power. Because if you go to any of the Egyptian texts, you will see the word Osiris and you'll see the word N. Throughout the whole text, Osiris, N. So to call us the N-word is to call us Osiris or Osir. They can't win for losing. But it was but I saw an actual interview of a white man on TV getting mad at a black man for saying the word nigger. Why you call yourself niggers? He said, we keeping it real. I'm from the project, and hey, when I say nigger, the brothers still know I'm down. See, you can't understand it. The white man was mad as shit. You know? I said, wait, something up to this. He should be happy. You know, based on what he knows. Well, based on what if he don't know, he said, them fools or whatever. But the key is there's been this whole consensus the last 4 or 5 years to get this word nigger out of the vocabulary of black people, because this thing is destroying them with words of power. And these words of power is coming back against them now. Abracadabra. So, to document that, you get Barbara Black Cold-Tube's book, which is the one you probably will be able to find. Solomon and Sheba, but there's ancient text. Now, the ancient text comes by the way of ancient Hebrew text, which was brought up into Spain by the Moors, which was the Greater Keys of Solomon and the Gotia Keys of Solomon in the Moorish manuscripts out of the University of Salamanca. And they translated the Saul nigger from the Hebrew text. So Barbara Black Cold-Tube is dealing with what information that they got out of the British Museum that's up in there right now based on that particular stuff, because the stuff from University of Salamanca and the ancient Moorish universities converted and went to the major museums, the Louvre, the Hermitage in Russia, which is not only just for art, but that shit has got a whole lot of Egyptian artifacts, and the British Museum, and a whole lot of private collections. But then again, on the other hand, secret societies like the Rosicrucians, the Golden Dawn Societies, the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, and all of these particular ones have now come and became purchased wide volumes of African metaphysical and spiritual material, which they give to regular libraries, which is underground. You can't even see that stuff. But regular libraries get what is called basically fabricated history, or lie agreed upon, which only explains the surface of things. That particular part. But even the particular information coming from the secret societies that have this particular information, you can access this particular information. You just can't access this particular information at a black bookstore, and you can't access this particular information at even history sections at Barnes & Nobles. Where you're going to have to go is you're going to have to go to comic book stores, which is the one I showed you downtown. Now, in the back of that comic book store, there's an industry called Chaos Industry. Now, I saw something that was amazing. But they got a big, thick book called the Nephilim. Big, thick book, about $22. And they have synthesized this information that you could either take it and read it as history, or it can be put into a board game for teenagers. Ages 15 to 100 can play these particular role-playing games. But it's actual history coming from the University of Salamanca and history from the occult world, which is hidden. But they say, we'll put the jump on the goddamn niggers. And so this is why Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark and all of the ASCAC could be allowed in the 80s and nobody get killed, because they wasn't dealing with the true history. True history is in the comic book stores. You see what I'm saying? So if you get the book, The Nephilim, which is a book with over 100 pages, which deals with this particular information, the information is in there. Which it tells you in the first chapter that history, as we know it, only explains the surface of things. And even Charles Darwin was hired to turn that ape shit for all of history. But the ape shit is the root of white man's history, which we're going to get into tonight also, too, with some new shit that went down. Because after they accessed this ape stuff a few months ago, or about the last 2 years, they realized the time is up and we got to start apologizing to niggas. Now, keep that in mind. But going on, like I told you last night, that the New Age Messiah, based on white people, is Colin Powell. And they're looking, well, he's the government Messiah. Get the book, The Messianic Conspiracy. But the government Messiah, the New Age Messiah, they're still looking for a certain black man. Since Deepak Chopra is from India, he could be considered that black man. They say that's good enough. Or the guy Maladoma Somé, you know, the guy that did like Water from Spirit, he could be the particular person. And they're working on Delbert Blair, if you know. But I think Delbert Blair is a little smart, because Delbert Blair is the kind of person, he'll say one thing to black people, another thing to white people. But he know what time it is with black people, because he knows a lot more about melanin in his melanin wars, and he tell you, not all these crackers, he'll tell you when not everybody gonna make it. So don't slide on Delbert Blair, but what I'm trying to say is it's not like they're not looking at him. And the reason why I say that, Delbert Blair recently, the reason why you haven't heard from him is because Delbert Blair is on a bigger circuit now. Delbert Blair is on $1 million white man circuit, which money is no object. You know, $4,500 is like chicken change to these people. And these people bring you in, you say, shit, you want 10,000? No problem. So he's receiving the money that he tried to get in the black community and that type of stuff. So, but I mean, there's a circuit out there. And they have, and there's a circuit out, and I should have brought the book to show you all these people. They had like 100 white people on this, and Delbert Blair and the brother Dr. Andau was the only two. But there's this main circuit out here, and it's big money. You see what I'm saying? But the main key is that they're looking for a Messiah. You see, they're looking for a Messiah. And they're looking for a male. The reason they're looking for a male, but you got to realize, see, you got to realize about the male and the female thing. And I said this in New York. I think we put a little more too much credence on what the Messiah is. It's still a lesser level, so the male can occupy that. See, the female is on something a little more. Her current and the energy is used for something else. It's like the Neptese thing. The unmanifest, the unseen real. You understand what I'm saying? So the energy is different. Because we see the manifest, sometimes we think that is more superior. Not necessarily so. So you got to understand the male and female duality principles. You understand what I'm saying? And it's about like a organization that's functioning together, and it doesn't have anything that we're not talking about in this whole sex, this inferiority thing. They got us thinking that one thing is better than the other. So